Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer for Lipstick Generation.
And I'm Steve. I'm the bassist.
And welcome to the Lipstick Panel. Today on the Lipstick Panel, hey kids, we're doing another Kiss-related episode.
Yay!
Yes, I know you missed that, and our download numbers certainly showed that. Said us recording this way in advance, not knowing what the download numbers are looking like for the next couple months. But hey, we're doing another Kiss episode.
Said Greg, lying as usual.
That's what I do on the internet. That's right, Fantastic Four 2005 wasn't actually good.
Oh no!
No, it's fine. I liked it. But today on the Lipstick Panel, we are talking about Paul Stanley's Live to Win album because Steve made us do the Gene Simmons Asshole album. And I said, look, if we're going to do a solo album by the two members of Kiss who are important, might as well do the good one.
I mean, if Gene Simmons stopped accidentally releasing solo albums that were better Kiss albums than all the Kiss albums they're contemporary with.
Plowing past that. Yes, we're talking about 2006's Live to Win, Paul Stanley's first solo album since 1978, beloved by many in the Kiss community, but also maybe a controversial album. We've got a diverse panel of experts and some newcomers to the Kiss community spelled with a K. Speaking of newcomers to the Kiss community, we've got Victor Krause joining us on another Kiss-related episode. Welcome, Victor.
Hey, I'm here.
You had a chance to escape, but then you got dragged back in. I'm sorry, Victor.
It's okay. I love to talk.
Now you're down the Kiss rabbit hole. You're stuck.
But hey, polar opposite of Victor, someone who has extreme expertise in Kiss, the man from KissFAQ, Julian Gill. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
We're going to try and sell some sizzling steak today with Live to Win.
And hey, we've got a couple excellent panelists with bullshit opinions. Speaking of bullshit opinions, Mike Walsh, crazy Mike, always full of shit. Welcome back on the show, buddy.
I like turtles.
It's a good take.
And speaking of guests who have incredible bullshit opinions all the time, Gavin-Wallace-Ailsworth, bringing in so much bullshit on this ranking. Welcome back to the show, Gavin.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
So, Greg, you're saying that having done the math and knowing the rankings yourself, you are disappointed in several of our guests?
Yes. Actually, Mike Walsh, not full of shit this episode. Gavin, extremely full of shit this episode.
Interesting. Okay.
My take. Well, I'll wait to get into my perhaps hottest take that I may have had.
Oh, yes. So typically what we do is we go around the panel and talk about our histories with the band and the album. Gavin, since you're the most full of shit, why don't you go first?
So this album was 2006, right? Yes, 2006. So I was kind of not super paying attention to Kiss World at that point. I had kind of had my, not really a falling out, but I'd moved on to other things for a while. I was big into Zappa, Primus, a whole bunch of, Smashing Pumpkins. I was in the depths of my Pumpkins phase around then. And I remember hearing the single for this somewhere and giggling at the chorus, "Live to win till you die." And one of the loudest I've ever heard my father laugh is when I said, "Hey, Dad, Paul Stanley put out a new solo album or new single from his upcoming solo album." And he said, "Oh, what's it called?" And I said, "Live to Win." And the chorus is, "Live to win till you die." And he just about fell over. And I've heard this album now a couple of times, and I'm ready to fall over.
Okay. Let's shift gears completely differently. You know what? I'm gonna do this in just a weird riding the eagle inverted. I'm gonna go next. Shake things up.
Ooh.
So 2006. I became a Kiss fan in 2004, seeing the band on the Rock the Nation tour, fell in love with the band, and then went and discovered the back catalog. And there wasn't a new Kiss album since 1998, and I didn't count Asshole because it was shitty. So, there was
production.
There was a hunger for new Kiss music, and we all knew the reason was because Paul Stanley didn't want to do a new Kiss album. And so when it was announced that he was doing a solo album, I remember a bunch of us on Kiss message boards were rooting for it to do well, because if Paul Stanley saw he could still make money from making records, then maybe it would mean a new Kiss album, and we, for some reason, thought the world needed a new Kiss album no matter what. And so we were pumped, we were psyched for Live to Win, and I remember the album leaked onto the internet like the day before it came out in stores. Listened to the entire album, and I thought, this is really weird. It's Paul Stanley, but like, very obviously modern 2006 production Paul Stanley. And it was kind of dark and angsty, but the songs were very good. And I bought the CD, the day it came out. I still kept those leaked MP3s on my computer just because for the sentimental value of my first ever album leak. And I thought that was so cool. But bought it the next day. Loved it for many, many years, and would sort of like, go back to it over time, and was excited to see it being promoted on South Park, and so we thought, yes, this is gonna be big, this is gonna be a breakout hit, and the album kind of fizzled out. It was really only appreciated by Kiss fans and World of Warcraft fans, and that's about it. But I listened back to it. In preparation for this episode. And, I'd gone on record as saying this is the last great Kiss record, and I still stand by that, and I would say this is actually a goddamn masterpiece. This is, this is one of the greatest albums ever recorded, a fantastic album without a bad song on it, and really like the last great Paul Stanley vocal performance, overall, on the entire record. There's a couple spots where it's a little bit spotty, but overall, the last great, like, Paul Stanley vocal album, and I love it. I think it's great, and I think it holds up surprisingly well. As someone who was just, binging the entire Bruce Springsteen catalog, and then being like, yeah, this competes, and is, better than several albums in that catalog. This is great. This is a really great album I'm a fan of, and I'm looking forward to someone shitting on that opinion. Victor, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, as you guys all know, I'm a huge Kiss fan. I remember getting Destroyer back in 1976 when I was about 10 years old. And I've gotten every album since then, and I know everything about each one. I'm kind of going to let you guys do most of the talking about Kiss just because I don't want to embarrass everybody. But
encyclopedic knowledge of the band.
Yeah, it's honestly shocking how much I know. And then Greg asked me to do this album, which I was already, just completely familiar with, listened to it a million times. And I so I listened to it a couple of times this week, I think like 3 or 4 or 5 maybe. And I came away thinking this is one of the most 2006 things I've ever heard. And but in spite of that, I found myself generally enjoying it. That's all I got.
All right. And for folks at home who have listened to a bunch of our Kiss episodes and have heard guests who weren't saying that jokingly, Victor's being sarcastic. He barely knows anything about Kiss. Because the thing is, like, everything Victor said, like, if you just couldn't tell he was a younger dude by the tone of his voice, you might be like, yeah, okay.
You can tell Victor was lying because he said he got into the band with Destroyer rather than Alive.
Yeah, that's how you know he's full of shit.
I was OG.
All right. Let's transition. You know what? Mix things up. You don't know who's going to be next. It's Steve.
Oh, hey guys. So 2006, I was paying attention to music when this album came out, but I was not paying attention to Kiss, though I was religiously watching South Park. And so my first exposure to this album was hearing that clear parody of the montage hype-up song over the, training montage in that South Park episode. I was like, this is pretty hilarious. Oh, that Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they do a pretty good satire of other people's style of music. And then I didn't think about it again for about a decade or so until Greg handed me the CD and was like, all right, you need to listen to it. Oh, it's still on my desk. Do you want it back, Greg?
Eventually. It's far away. Just leave it there for now. I can't reach. I'm not Mr. Fantastic.
Ooh, fantastic stuff. And then I listened to the entire album once this week. and was like, that is super. So like he had Skillet as his backing band for this one then? Is that what happened here?
Más o menos.
And it was strange. No, I'm looking at it. His backing band was like John 5 and the dude from the Goo Goo Dolls. Oh, also Bruce Kulick randomly on bass. So in general, I thought it was largely a pretty solid album. There were a couple of pretty good tracks and a couple of pretty tedious tracks, but it was, it was fairly middle of the road Kiss kind of music throughout, just, weirdly early 2000s alt rock.
All right.
About it.
So, Julian, what are your thoughts on this album and your history with it in particular?
Obviously, I was paying very close attention to what was going on in Kiss World in 2006. That was before I had my meltdown and deleted the KissFAQ in 2007, which I don't know if there's a correlation between listening to Live to Win and deleting the KissFAQ. It's completely plausible, but probably not likely. I was following what was going on very closely. Obviously, 2004, we'd had a really cool tour where they'd started digging out, more, gems in the catalog. So there was a hope that they were going to record more material. And following Gene's album, we're like, okay, Paul's got to do his now. He's got to really talk us down from that cliff that Gene left us on, with giving us some really classy rock and roll and something that we expect, something that sounds like Kiss would in 2006, rather than anything else. And then it came out. But we'd had a good indication what was going to happen. There was a bunch of crap that was released. Blood Type R came out on a German band, Silbermond, in 2004. I think it was. I think a Dutch band did an English language version of that song as well around that time. And then, of course, Paul was writing with the Click 5, doing totally pop rock. So
Hey,
we had
that
a
song
good
is awesome, sir. I love that song.
Angel to you, devil to me. It's a cool song, but it was a clear indication of where he was kind of going and what audience he was targeting. He wasn't targeting fat, overweight, middle-aged Kiss fans. He was basically wanting to knock, what's her name, Avril Lavigne or April Lavigne or whatever, out of the pop rock area and really stamp the Star Child, authenticity on it. So I was very excited.
Write songs not for fat, overweight, middle-aged Kiss fans.
Attempts to stay relevant. Look, man, Click 5 is great. I love that band. I love their whole catalog. Love that band. But so what were
and their whole catalog.
Yeah.
And the band.
And the band.
Don't forget the catalog.
Right, and the catalog. But
we must mention the band.
Right.
Oh yeah, you can't neglect the band or even the catalog.
Right.
Oh. Special attention.
Were your thoughts on the album positive overall?
No.
He deleted KissFAQ over it.
All right. Well, that answers the question.
No. Generally, I thought it was really good. Current, forgetting that he was a 50-something-year-old rock star from the 70s. It was just trying too hard. It was too earnest to be contemporary for my taste. But I liked a lot of the songs off it. Listening to it over this past week, I enjoyed listening back to it. So, it hasn't grown on me, but it hasn't, plummeted to the depths of my Kiss closet.
All right, and Crazy Mike, how about you? What is your history of Live to Win, Paul Stanley, this album, and your general thoughts on it before we start the ranking?
So, I can't think of a single other album in my lifetime that has tortured me as much as Live to Win. And that's mostly just the lead up to it. So I became a Kiss fan in the 90s. I got to be there for when Psycho Circus was a brand new album. I'm like, cool, like my favorite band, the original lineup is together. Like, times are just going to be great. I saw them on the Psycho Circus tour. Then they did the farewell tour, and I'm like, no, my favorite band is ending. And I was kind of sad, but I got to see them a few times. Then they were like, actually, we're not ending. And I was like, cool, my favorite band can keep going. Let's make new music. And then they didn't make new music. So I'm like, this is a bummer. And then in 2003, Gene announced that he was doing a solo album and that it would probably be out the next year. And I was like, okay, it'll probably be a jumbled mess like his first one. And it was, so that's fine. I got what I expected. Wasn't even really all that mad about it. It was kind of funny. But shortly after Gene, Paul was like, I'm going to do a solo album, and mine will probably be out next year. And I was like, now this I'm interested in. And I remember that was the first I ever heard of it was June 20th, 2003. And I remember that also because it's my mom's birthday, so I'm not that psycho, although I am that psycho. So it was June 2003. Paul's like, yeah, I'm going to do an album, probably be out next year. So 2004 comes and goes. We get Asshole. We get no Paul music, not a single or anything. 2005 comes and goes. I am dying. 2006, most of it comes and goes. They're doing like random shows here and there. And I'm like, I don't care if they're doing shows in Japan. I don't live in Japan. I want Paul's album. And I was dying. So finally in October 2006, the thing comes out. So like 3 years and 4 months later, which looking back, like isn't that big of a gap for albums in modern history. But like, just the wait, especially when it was supposed to come out like 2 years earlier, was killing me.
And
So anyway,
compare it to a band that, used to put out 2 albums a year.
2 albums a year, yeah. So I'm just like, I cannot wait. Paul's my favorite like singer and songwriter and my favorite rock icon. So I just cannot wait for a new album from his. His 1978 album is one of my favorites. So I'm super pumped. And yeah, I got a leaked version of it. And it definitely caught me off guard. It is not at all what I was expecting. It took me a while to like listen to it a few times and like process it, and I was like, "Whoa, weird." And then I just listened to it. They came out. I listened to it so many times. I was like, "This album's great." Just finally embracing it. Like it's kind of weird, but like Paul's the man. I love these songs. And then as like years would go by, I'd kind of like put it aside, and it was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, but it's just not really the Paul album I wanted. And then I gotta say, listening to it again just now for this podcast, and it's been a while, I was really enjoying the songs again. I was like, oh, there's these cool little parts I had forgotten about. Like, this is really good music. So as of this moment right now, it's a very strange experience for me. It's not exactly the album I wanted or expected, but there's great songs on it. Greg, I agree. Every song is a good one. I think Paul had a lot to get out of his mind and his soul on this album. And so as a fan of him, I'm glad I get to hear that, but it is just overall a weird experience, but it is good music.
All right, well, hey, let's dive right into this ranking. So coming in as the least best song on Live to Win, Loving You Without You.
That's got to be worthy of a drop, Steve. Come on.
Oh, what? Sorry, I'm messing with CSS in the background.
Some men just want to watch.
This is the one I ranked at the bottom personally. So I'm.
Yeah, so did you, Julian.
Yeah,
wait, so we all agreed
finally something on this panel that agrees with my ranking. Hallelujah.
First time for everything, buddy. I ranked it second from the bottom.
As did I.
Ranked it the highest then?
I think I did.
No, Victor.
it was definitely Victor.
Victor gave it 7 points.
What?
Victor, why is the song so great?
So I have this theory that there's actually 3 or 4 tracks from this album that were written in the 80s, and he just forgot to record them until 2006. And this is one of them. And since it was the last one, I think I was the most acclimated to that idea by the time we got there. And I think the first time that it got to the end of the chorus where he does that like progressive jump in intervals between the lyrics, it made me laugh. And then the first time I was laughing at it, and then the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. Maybe half ironically, maybe half for real, but it's just kind of so over the top that I couldn't help but have some appreciation.
I mean, yeah, Paul Stanley is definitely a man who can do some very impressive vocal gymnastics. I actually completely buy the sincerity of the vocal. This is a song, I believe it's solely written by Paul Stanley, no co-write on the track. And a lot of this album is clearly about Paul Stanley's divorce and about him coming to terms with that and feeling heartbreak. And this is a very sincere song. Like a lot of this album is awkward in its sincerity, but that's why I like it, where it is allowing Paul Stanley to be vulnerable to say, like, I'm still in love with you even though I'm not with you, and I want to be with you and I can't, so I wrote a song about it instead. And so if you read Paul's book, he acts a little bit more tough and macho about his divorce, like, yeah, well, she was kind of crazy and I shouldn't have been with her at all in the first place. But when you hear songs like this, I think it's a much truer insight into the man's soul and how he was feeling at the moment. And, you know, the reason I ranked it second from the bottom is I think there's another ballad on the album that sort of captures the same emotion, but it's just a better written song with just better performances all around. But it's still sincere, it's still great, and I still think it is an excellent composition, performed extremely well.
I think the sort of coda section where he's singing the last bit of the chorus and going between his more intense high up vocal and then the more tender lower one, I think that's also some very impressive work.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Stanley, in my opinion, is one of the top rock vocalists of all time. And I think this is the last album where he really gave just a out and out phenomenal vocal performance throughout. There's one song where the vocals are a little bit rough, but I would say overall, like track for track, he's killing it on this album, and this is a great example of great Paul Stanley vocal.
I think you guys may be overestimating how difficult octave jumps really are.
I mean, this might not be the most difficult vocal on the album, but I'm saying that he is doing well with these octave jumps.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he's pulling them off. Although I would argue that it's like,
well, they're not octaves. They're different intervals. That one section, he's jumping different intervals. I didn't chart it out and figure out exactly what it is.
The section I was noticing, there was a couple sections where he just kept on like jumping between octaves, between lines. Like he may not, the actual intervals he was singing may not have been specifically octaves, but he was singing the same melody separated by octaves.
Okay. Fair enough.
Goddamn music nerds.
This is the dude in the prog band.
Hey, progressive rock guy, what's your opinion on this?
I mean, I feel like I'm going to have a very common note throughout much of this album, which is that it's boring and forgettable. You know, it's my hit the drums Joey for this episode.
Yeah.
I ranked this one third from the bottom, and in looking at my rankings again, I should have put this one at the bottom. My actual bottom song doesn't deserve to be done like that. And I'll talk about that when we get. Yeah, it doesn't. But yeah, no, that was a mistake. I concede that.
I am very angry with you about that, by the way, and we'll get to that when we get to that.
I can't wait, Greg. But no, this one, it's just, I mean, it's a forgettable Paul Stanley ballad. I would say that I Finally Found My Way is a better song than this.
I would agree. That's oh, wait, no, I Finally Found My Way. I was thinking of the one from Revenge. No, this is not better than I Finally Found My Way. Yeah, Every Time I Look at You is a better song than this. But yeah, I mean,
clearly, but also so's I Finally Found My Way.
There's a lot of songs that are better than this song. I think we can all agree on that.
I mean,
well, yeah.
At least 9 on this album are better than this song, right, according to this ranking.
Yeah.
Well, for me, that's why I had it like second from the bottom. I like the song. I think it's a nice ballad, but 3 ballads on a 10-song album that's only about 33 and a half minutes. It's kind of ballad heavy, and I think the other 2 ballads are just better ballads and better songs. So one of them has to end up in third place. And Greg, I think it's interesting because you have a different interpretation of this song than I do. You see it as still about his ex-wife. I've always interpreted it as about his current wife, but just kind of like being on the road and like missing her and missing each other until, he's back and they can be together again.
It could be that at 55 years old, Paul Stanley was just a competent enough songwriter that he knew how to structure the lyrics of a love song so that any listener could project whatever meaning they found most meaningful to themselves on it.
That is incredibly accurate.
It could be about fantasizing about someone as you pleasure yourself.
It might be like how I'm feeling every day when I get this daily picture of Gavin on my Facebook feed.
Goddamn right.
So, Steve, other than it being a boring ballad, any comments on it?
It's a by the numbers ballad. Like, not only is it a ballad, which, is a strike against it already, it's not a great ballad. It's sort of bog standard, other than like it doesn't have good dynamic usage. Like
So
most power ballads sort of have the start off quiet and then build somewhere thing. This one just sort of starts off at the level it's at and stays there, other than the octave jumps that it starts adding, 2/3 of the way through or whatever, that I think were sort of an unnecessary choice. If those were vocal gymnastics, this would be like the unneedlessly shreddy guitar solo. It'd be like November Rain, but if instead of like a really great guitar solo, he was just hitting as many notes as possible.
So, a common thing we've talked about in other episodes has been, Kiss is often utilizing co-writers for their songs, and this is the only song without a co-write on the album. Do you think that adds any authenticity to the track, or do you think there's any additional emotion you might sense from it, or do you just think, he just wrote a boring song?
He's been doing this for long enough that I'm sure every song has some amount of mercenary songwriting sense to it. He's applying his craft. They probably all also have some personal meaning to them, but I don't know. I don't think it has more personal meaning to him than any other song he would be working on in that era.
All right, that's because I sense a level of intimacy when you have all these competent pop songwriters that are bringing different parts of your soul emotionally, but when you choose to have a song without a co-write, I wonder if that's there's an additional layer of intimacy to it. I do sense that, but Julian, why is the song shite?
No, I actually agree with you on what you were saying there. That's a really good kind of theme with Paul Stanley, that there is no co-writer on this because it says exactly what Paul wanted to present to the listener. Whether or not I mock it or like it or hate it or like it is irrelevant, that it's Paul Stanley giving you something. So I think you're actually getting a deep look into him in this song. Musically and structurally and sonically, it does nothing for me. It's like nearly as bad as Nothing Can Keep Me From Puking on You. It is that far down the catalog as a whole for me. But I do recognize that there was something he was trying to get across, that it was about the intimacy and longing for someone that wasn't around. That's just not what I want to listen to music for. It's like Anne Murray, and does not work for me.
All right, well, any other comments on Loving You Without You before we move on?
There's a Kate Bush track called Watching Me Without You, or Watching You Without Me, I think. And in my notes, I initially wrote down that title instead. And that
of vocals
experience
better than Paul Stanley. Heyo.
Oh, no. I mean,
No,
I love Paul
that's not even
Stanley's
a hot
vocals,
take.
but yeah.
Kate Bush is an amazing singer.
Oh, yeah.
I actually do have a nitpick on the title as well. Crazy Mike is going to be Picky Mike. The correct title, as according to the back of the CD, is actually Loving You Without You Now. And I did see that Spotify and probably other such services erroneously has it as Loving You Without You. Does that totally change the meaning? No, it's just a nitpick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wikipedia lists one of the genres of this album as bevy metal, so
That's
titles happen.
It's interesting. I remember the title as being Loving You Without You Now, but Steve had my CD for months, and then I just looked at the streaming services because that's what I was listening to.
Right,
So I'm like,
right.
Oh, I
that's
think
what
it's...
threw me off too. Yeah, like I actually had to go back and check as well because I was doing it on Spotify just out of convenience, and then I was like, that's not how I remembered it.
Yep. So, all right. So it is canonically Loving You Without You now.
Update your
Now
records.
it is now Loving You Without You now.
Yes.
Now.
Correct. So next up in the ranking, we have a song that, according to the sticker that came on the CD, was one of the hits off the album. We have Lift next on the list.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow.
I did not expect. See that I had the same bottom two, just in reversed order, but I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I admire the ballsiness of the CD when it came out. It had that sticker that said featuring the hits Live to Win and Lift,
Right.
assuming they were going to be hits. And at that point, I had become, a little bit more savvy with marketing. Like, I don't think these are going to be hits, but man, Paul, bless you for trying, and bless Doc McGee for thinking that he's, can convince people they're going to be hits.
Speaking of hits and things I didn't expect to say on this album, hit the drums, Polly.
But
Hey, oh yeah, sure.
Close enough.
Look, we got like 6 people. I'm not going to do a lot of drops on this episode. They just waste time.
So yeah, this song, Paul Stanley does a great job of playing "God or My Girlfriend." This is definitely, I think, of all the songs on the album, the one that feels most, I don't like using the word, but I'm going to use it, dated. This is the one
Definitely.
that most feels like October 2006. Could have also been on Bad Out of Hell 3 by accident. It's very much like a rock radio single of the day, but sung by Paul Stanley. But it is incredibly competent in its writing. It has very good production, like the guitars sound massive. The vocals are phenomenal. It's a top-notch vocal performance from Paul Stanley, where it's not his normal genre, but it's a freaking home run of a performance. And yeah, classic "God of My Girlfriend" song from 2006, but sung by a Jewish guy. Great.
I mean, Jewish guys can love God.
I mean, are you allowed to?
Like theoretically, Jewish guys are supposed to love God.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
it's like it's pretty explicit in the text. You
Like,
know,
if
love the
you're
Lord your
actually
God with all your
Jewish,
heart,
but-
soul, and mind, and whatnot.
Oh, well, there you go. He loves God. He loves his girlfriend.
This really is just like a psalm.
There you go.
It's psalm-esque. Yeah, I get that. I guess I struggled with it just from the beginning, just because, again, going back to just my expectations, it's such a darker, more plotting song than anything I would have anticipated, and especially, "Live to Win" is pretty anthemic, the song, and then track 2 is "Lift," and you're like, whoa, and it really just kind of changes up what you're getting out of this album, and so it's interesting, and I got to see it live. It was definitely one of the most talked about songs when the album came out, and I'm really kind of surprised by the fact that you guys all more or less agree with me having it near the bottom, because I remember a lot of people on Kiss message boards really speaking highly of it, like, "Oh, so cool, Paul went dark, yeah, the song is badass," and I guess I want my more, I want a more up-tempo, upbeat, happy, sexual Paul, and that's just what I dig, but,
I mean, I don't agree with you. I gave it 6 points, so it's in the middle for me. I actually kind of consider the song to be a ballad in some ways, just because of how slow it is. Like, I put this in...
I get what you're saying, yeah.
I put this in the ballad category of the album, where it's still not the best ballad on the album, but it's a solid ballad.
So this album has 4 ballads for you. That is ballad heavy.
Yes.
So now I'm picturing, Mike listening to Paul Stanley's songs where he's singing about God and just being really horny about God, and Mike being stoked.
See, I would be fine with Paul singing about God. It's just
You need God to be touching his dick.
I don't even no. it's
I
not-
jack off really loud.
I don't need to sexualize God. I guess a happier interpretation of God. This is like a very depressed, which doesn't make it an invalid emotion. If this is about him and his shameful feelings with his relationship with God, if that's the interpretation we're going with, I'm not making that an illegitimate feeling. I'm just more of a like, yeah, let's be happy. I guess I just like happy music. I'm a little bitch. What can I say? You
No,
know?
sorry, we're laughing about the eye jack off.
Oh no, yeah, no, I'm not mad at you guys laughing.
That wasn't Victor saying that. That was from a different episode. That's not what dropped.
Victor wanted to defend your own honor. Maybe talk about this song while you're at it.
I have an alternate take on this one. So you said God or My Girlfriend, but if we go by the Kiss rule that I've come to understand over listening to episodes of the Lipstick Panel, I mean by my lifelong appreciation for the band. If love actually means dick, that's Kiss parlance, right? Love, when they say love, they actually mean dick.
Yep.
Then the lyric, lift me higher, straight to your love, actually makes this the gay anthem of 2006.
Ah.
Oh. That also makes the previous song Dicking You Without You Now.
Yeah.
I mean...
Which means jacking off.
Yeah.
It
Or
all
some
comes
sort
full
of
circle.
necrophilic anthem.
So Victor, you rate this last place. So you didn't care for this this gay anthem? Are you homophobic, sir?
No, I just this made me also laugh, similar to Loving You Without You Now, but I didn't enjoy my experience with it as much. If it had been more explicitly a gay anthem, I might have been more into it.
For me, I put this at what is that, fourth from the bottom, and it, after the first tune, I'm kind of into it. Like, I hadn't heard the song "Live to Win" in many years, so I'm like, all right, this may be okay. Maybe this album will be pretty good. And then we get to this song, and we get to that the salvation bit where everything strips away, and it's just his voice, and it's that cheesy late '90s, early 2000s like telephone kind of voice, which he uses twice on this album. I don't want to laugh at Paul Stanley. I love the man. When he's great, he's great. Like, I want to laugh when he's being maybe willfully funny and the goofy sex stuff, but like at his vocal choices, I don't want to find those funny. And I just did in this song. It's not where, no. It's just not what his voice should be doing.
And I get that. I remember being really annoyed with that production technique. It was on also Bad Out of Hell 3, which came out the same month. Just on a lot of albums, that whole telephony distorted voice. And that hip hop drum beat that they would just insert onto every album of the era too, which would also have that same telephone distortion.
Run that sweep filter over it, get that kind of thing. Ugh.
Yeah. So, but I think the composition is strong enough where it works against, it is able to defeat how dated that choice is for me. And I think that it is at least a fascinating time capsule of just Paul Stanley going hard into 2006, the same way that they went hard into the 80s hair metal thing and went hard into grunge with Carnival of Souls. Like, this is, him being relevant to the day, which he had done many times before. It's just the style of music he was aping this time was just a less cool style of music.
Ultimately, by 2008, he would prove to be 2000 late.
Oh, shit.
What song was that again?
Black Eyed Peas, I think.
Something like that. Man,
so did I rank?
Showed up by Will.i.am.
Did I rank this the highest?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Tell us why the song is great, Julian.
Where did you put it?
I had this fourth from top, and I liked it back then because I don't listen to a lot of contemporary music, so this kind of style was refreshing and new to me. I wasn't listening to everything else that was kind of already been done in this kind of vein. And it's the breakup song. It's the I'm not going to be left down. It's the King of the Mountain. I'm going to lift salvation. I loved it. So I still do. And I thought it was one of the best songs performed live during the tour. That's on One Live Kiss. So, it's it may be dated, and I remember liking it a heck of a lot more than I did when I listened back to it this week. But it's also got a bunch of different mixes available for it. The mix edit new version that was like a single up on iTunes for a while, and then the one that I actually do listen to a lot is the Monster Fat mix, which has louder, more trebly vocals on it. So I dig it.
And the mix new one, mix new thing, that's the one that's on Apple Music. So that's the one that I heard for this ranking.
So Steve, what are your thoughts on this 2006 of a song?
I found it overall, it was a little bit interesting. I did strange things to my style sheet. It was a little bit plotting, and I thought the drums could have come up. I didn't hate it, but just like mid-tempo rock faux ballads, they also have an uphill battle to impress me, and this one did not.
Fair enough. What was it at this point you realized you were listening to God or My Girlfriend, or was this the point where you realized how 2006 the album was?
I mean, no, the point I realized how 2006 was when Live to Win came on. I was like, oh wow, this is very 2006 production and arrangement.
All right. Well, hey, we've gotten through 2 of the ballads. We've got another ballad next up on the list. Next up, we have Second to None.
Way too low. Way too low.
The only reason I didn't put this at the bottom is because I wanted to put it second to last. So that way when it came up, I could bring up the point that I put Second to None, second to last.
And then it was third from the end. Just ruined the joke.
You know what? I admire your commitment to the bit.
It was worth it, but I really do not like this song. Did it for the Vine or the gram. I'm an old man.
Did it for the internets, whatever's on those now.
Yeah, wherever all the hip kids are putting the videos.
So,
the daily.
So hot take, Troy, and I put this at the bottom of my ranking.
No!
Wait, is that a hot take?
I guess
According to Mike.
According to Mike and Steve, I guess he put it in the middle, and Victor towards the middle.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: I think it's a good song, but this one felt like the most obvious. Paul had to put this on there so that his current girlfriend wouldn't be upset with him.
Because you've already got a song about God. You've already got a song about your ex.
Well, no, here's the thing. Most of these songs are clearly about his ex and how he's sad about that. But now that he's in a new relationship where he's committed, he has to act like, nah, babe, like, you're the most important thing in my life, and I'm totally over her. There might be other, women in my past, but I'm over them emotionally, and I only love you. And I'm not just settling for you because I can't get back with my ex. So here's a ballad I wrote for you about how much I love you. Like, it felt a little bit pandering, but because it's a good song, I still liked it. But it as someone who has adjusted lyrical content to appease an SO, I get what Paul did here. He's like, I want to still get laid from my current wife. So I'm going to go ahead and write a ballad for her. And it's clearly the weakest of the ballads in terms of emotion. Like, it felt like, I think at this point in his life, Paul does sincerely love his wife and is over his ex. But I think at the time, if you listen to like where the power of the vocals and emotions are, it's clearly on all the songs about his ex. And this is the one that's like, yeah, babe, totally into you. I'm totally over my ex-girlfriend. Everything's cool. So yeah, that's my take on it. Ex-wife.
I'll even just try to work with you and say, even if we work under the premise that everything you said is true in the sense of like pandering to the current wife, or I don't know if it was girlfriend at the time, whatever. Like, because I get that we've all had to do that at some point, and it's terrible. And girlfriends or wives, like, I'm not even trying to be sarcastic, can just be absolutely awful. I hope in most cases for you guys they're not, but I've had the just absolute shit experiences and the shit compromises and things that you have to pull off. But let's even say that is what Paul had to do here. I just really like the song. It's a sweet, pleasant ballad to me. for me, it's my favorite ballad on the album. I think that sad ballads and heartbreak ballads are great and have a lot of validity, but ultimately the happy ballad, the positive song, the like, oh yeah, maybe love can exist, maybe it can be real, like maybe we can have this great thing together, like, you know, in an ideal Mike mind, like that's awesome to me. I like the thought of that, and so that's why that song rises above for me. And I did put it at number 2 for my ranking. So, or no, number 3. So I was gonna say it was second to 1, but it's second to 2. That fell apart in my face,
These lyrics,
but it's still a
this
great
is
song.
totally about his second wife, and that is hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's the thing is like it is kind of funny, like second to none. You're yeah, you know, there might have been others, but you're the best second wife. It's look, I still think it's a great song and I still love it, but I think this is the out of all the songs in the album, like this is the one that feels the most forced. And it's like I will not be able to get, you know, handy J's if I don't write the song. So you got to do what you got to do, Paul.
There's a much better song about a second wife by The Residents called My Second Wife.
Was that one off the commercial album too?
It's on the commercial album.
Yeah, I think I remember
it's
that
1
one.
minute. Yeah.
I mean, they're all 1 minute. Victor, what were your thoughts on this one?
So this is another track that, surprise, surprise, made me laugh. Whatever the final line of the chorus is, like, it's something to the effect of "You may not be the first, but to me you're second to none," or
Yes,
something like that.
pretty much.
I thought that was hilarious, but not. I guess not to the degree where I had a tremendous amount of affection for the song. But you know, it's all right.
Julian, you ranked it second from the bottom. Is your take on it
Julian.
similar to mine?
Well, stealing Elvis song titles in hopes of, repeating the success of using that title deliberately and writing this song in 2 hours really shows. I don't like it. I don't like the vocal. I don't like the message. It's just syrupy horseshit that reminds me of that broccoli colonic I mentioned earlier. It's really the insecure Paul that just, little chubby Bert, you're not the first, you're maybe the second, but I love you so much. Oh my God, just save me from this crap.
Damn, I thought I was going to have the most aggressive comments on this episode, but Julian, that was a work of art.
Yeah, I just got to go listen to some Slayer right now to get that filthy song out of my mind.
There you go.
A Slayer colonic.
Hell, I would even, and this fits in with the whole colonic thing, I would take Asshole over this album.
Oh.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the hottest take I have this episode.
Hot take button, where is that? F.
My head! My precious head!
So, Gavin, you also did not care much for this one.
No, hit the drums, Joey. It is forgettable and boring. It's, yeah, I mean, I didn't even really dive deep enough to investigate the lyrics to figure out that it's about his second wife, but that totally makes sense.
So you didn't listen to the hook of the chorus?
I mean, I did, and I probably the words probably registered, but much like so much dog shit thrown at a window, it just kind of slid right off. And I moved on with my life.
That is a metaphor I had not heard before.
A turd in the wind, as it were.
Rolling like a turd in the
A turd in the wind on the
apparently
window.
into Gavin's window.
Yeah, my brain window. But no, it's, I mean, and Paul Stanley's solo albums seem to always have some forgettable ballads on them, right? Because we go back to 1970, the 78 solo album. We've got Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart.
A song severely lacking balls, even though I've grown to like it, has no balls.
But it's better than this song.
You're correct.
Yeah. But also, this is also on that list. Second to None is also. I would put this song second to I Finally Found My Way. Even I would put this lower than Nothing Can Keep Me From You.
I can see that.
Where does it hit on the pistachio barrier?
You know,
Oh, jeez, that's not good.
I've thought about this, and I've thought about this with much of this album, and it comes down to, would I rather listen to like most of this album or sit through Pistachio Medley? And I gotta say, because my cutoff, everything that I've rated below 2 is not a good song.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So I would rather listen to the Pistachio Medley than 8 songs on this album. So that puts those 8 songs, ladies and gentlemen, below the Pistachio barrier.
Oh, damn.
Oh, shit.
Gavin,
What's pistachio?
the Pistachio Medley is like a 25-minute Smashing Pumpkins track.
Oh yeah, it's up.
22,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify what it was. It sounds terrible.
And it's not a track so much as it is just like a bunch of guitar
Riffs.
riff demos that
It's
they've
studio
stapled
scraps.
together.
Yeah, it's studio scraps of different guitar riff ideas thrown together haphazardly with varying volumes and different mastering, quote unquote. And
No,
just-
I get it. So I don't like Gavin anymore. I get it.
Yes. Yeah, Gavin, no, nothing on this album is sub Pistachio. That's madness.
Come on.
Steve, you ranked second to none right in the middle of the ranking.
Smack dab in the middle because, yeah, it's a generic bog standard ballad, but it's an honest generic bog standard ballad. And that's, less annoying to me than all of the mid-tempo, this should have been a rock song, but we played it slow, or just like the weird octave jumping ballad. So yeah, in the middle. I have nothing to say about it, good or bad.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready to move on. So, next up in the ranking
I'm done talking about Steve's creepy voice.
Next up in the ranking is the song I ranked as my number 1 song on the album.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think I know what it is. Go
This-
ahead.
I know what it is, too.
This has some real solid consensus.
Hold on, I want to hide under the desk if that's the case.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Greg.
No,
I
Julian,
messed
you're
this
part of
up
the
for you.
consensus.
Alright, so next up on the list, we have a song that might be in my top 10 in the entire Kiss catalog. Every Time I See You Around.
It's a little low, but
I feel better.
Most
Yeah,
of
why
us
is it low, Greg?
Well, you ranked it at the bottom, Gavin. Steve, Julian, and Victor gave it a total of 3 points, and Mike, more sane than the rest of you damn savages, gave it 7 points.
yeah, I'm the only one who put it accurately because it's not the best song on the album, but the rest of you savages are in fact savage. So I'm the 1 out of 6 people who knows where this song is ranked.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it landed at 4th from the bottom, so the 3 of us who said 3rd from the bottom are pretty close.
Yeah.
Look, democracy makes truth.
So
That's how it works.
this is, I think, probably the single biggest shocker I've ever had on an episode of the Lipstick Panel, which I know I've said in the past, but we keep finding new ways to shock and appall me on this show. For me, this is such a slam dunk home run of a song where I could see it ranking maybe like in the middle of the ranking if you guys weren't into the ballads, or I could see it even being top 3 as where Mike put it, or that's top 4. But to be ranked
Top
this
10 at least.
this is absolute madness to me. This is, as far as lyrical content goes, it is very much capturing into the emotion of a breakup so well, and just when that person is still involved in your life, and how tumultuous and torturous it can be when you see that person, you still have feelings for them. And this is Paul Stanley, peak Paul Stanley, given just a phenomenal, great vocal with a great melody, great instrumentation. The strings are fantastic. It has momentum where it builds. It's driving. It's like just a fantastic sweet spot. And I just feel so much heartache and emotion, but also just the great classic Paul Stanley vocal power from it. Like for me, this is forever territory. This is like that good. One of the best ballads he's ever done from a guy who's done great ballads. I adore this track. It's my favorite song from the album. I almost didn't rank it number one, but then I thought about it, like, no, this for me is the best song on the album. A song that should have been a hit. I love it.
So hold up, Greg. Are you saying that you're hypothesizing that the lyric, every time I see you with your arms around another, the another is his 12-year-old son?
No, like dating another guy.
But you said something about he still has to be involved in this woman's life.
Yes, because he has
clearly about his child.
No, well, being involved in this woman's life because he has a child means that he sees her at functions and sees her with another guy.
Yeah, I get it. I follow.
So,
or even just like picking Evan up, and she's got like a nice little picture in the foyer of her and her new beau.
Or just like the dude's like standing at the door.
Hey, Paul, what's up?
As opposed to the nude portrait of himself that Paul had put in his bedroom around that time.
I so wish we could have seen that. Why did they? I don't think it was nude. It was him and his son. I hope it wasn't nude.
No, they were surrounded by like nude.
It was like it was like Greek, and they might have had like little loincloths or something. But
either way, I'm sure it's in Mark Cicchini's collection.
That was like my favorite part of the book.
All right. So, Gavin, you just heard about how much I love this song.
Yeah. Well,
what the fuck, dude?
Like I said earlier in the episode, I shouldn't have ranked this low. That was a mistake. I
should have gone third from the bottom, like all the cool kids.
Well, looking back on it, I probably should have put it at like number. I don't know. Maybe trade this with my number 4 or 6. But then again, like I've said, everything below number 2 is not a good song, for me. It's still in that sub pasticcio area. But no, the chorus to this one is catchy, and there is. I do feel something with the lyrics in this song, which is more than I can say about a fair amount of this album. But I just don't. I don't know. This album just does not please me. Just on a basic, fundamental level. Like even Asshole, right, had moments where I
was pleased.
Where I felt
So you're saying
good
that
about music.
Gene Simmons' Asshole was able to please you, but this wasn't.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're an ass man, you're an ass man,
Oh yeah. But I am sorry that I ranked it at the bottom, though. That was an error in my rankings.
Okay, why are the rest of you wrong? Steve, why are you wrong about this one?
I honestly, it's just another one of those plodding mid-tempo-y ballads. Just not really my jam.
Okay, Julian, why are you wrong about this one?
I really want to savage this song, but I just can't after what you said, Greg. I mean, I'm just really touched that, this song has affected you so badly. If you don't consider Lift a ballad, then this is definitely the best of the ballads on the album.
Seems weird to call this one a ballad and Lift not a ballad, because he does hit the drums on this.
Yeah. It's a dumb title. Again, it's dumb lyrics, but not like in good Kiss dumb lyrics. I think I only give it the 3 points because Bruce plays bass on it and it's got a nice solo, and that's really all I can't even muster the energy to savage it. It's just so blah, And it's the piss break song on the tour because he insisted on playing this song. And it was just like, shit.
Actually, it's interesting you say that with him playing it on the tour because, Greg, I agree with you. It's a great song. And so in that sense, I got why he was playing it on the tour. But in terms of what you were saying, where it's like, yeah, I got to please the current woman and everything, that was weird to me. I was like, okay, he's not doing her song, but he's doing the ex's song. So he went to the trouble to do the song, but then did a whole tour where he's like, yeah, fuck you, current woman.
Because I'm sure the audience would have rioted if he attempted to play Second to None live.
I would have liked it.
But, I think
So it turns out she's second to the audience.
Here's what
Isn't everyone?
What I would say about that is that the reason he played this song is clearly because it was the standout ballad from the album, if you don't count Lift as a ballad. This is the one that I think had the most single potential, had the catchiest melody, the biggest, hook of a chorus, the best vocal of all the ballads. Great solo. So it makes sense. And I understand, going back to Second to None, the mindset of just like, I'm going to write this ballad and shove it on the album so that my current girl gets off my back. But I recognize that this is actually a better song, so that's the one I'm going to push.
It's the least contrived of the ballads. It's Second to None, has been mentioned, is basically Hold Me, Touch Me Part 2. It's, there's nothing kind of new. For someone who said he didn't want to go back to 1978, with Second to None, he totally did in putting that on there. This one, at least, is the most original of the ballads that's on the album. So you totally get why he did it live. You totally get why it's here. And you totally get why it's ranked the best of the ballads by this panel.
So, Victor, what are your thoughts on me having to do a reveal-esque defending of this song?
Well, you're a lot more adept at defending yourself than I am, I think.
Greg's got a lot of shitty opinions. He's used to it.
Yeah,
I'm also good at defending myself because I'm from Cleveland. That's like how you gotta do it, buddy.
Cleveland tough. Sometimes you gotta fight a dude or defend a Paul Stanley song.
I think... So earlier this week, Greg and I were trying to guess each other's number ones for this album. And I think I got it in 2 because I looked at my own notes. And on this song, I wrote, feels like abbreviated Steinman. And I think this song kind of suffers for me because it's such a whiplash after the first 3 songs, like a tonal whiplash. It's like those first 3 are so dark and like heavy, and then this one comes around and is so different. And certainly the first time I listened through the album, I was not into it at all, and it grew on me a little bit, but this one does not do a lot for me. And, more eloquent people have already trashed it enough. I don't think negatively enough of it to say anything other than,
This one does not spark joy.
Yeah. I don't know if I would get rid of it though. It's not my fave.
It's no beach ball, that's for sure.
Oh, certainly no beach ball.
No. Nor Summer Turns to Sigh.
Yeah.
All right, well, now that we've gone through all the ballads, I can't believe this song is so low. Next up on the list, we have Wake Up Screaming.
Freaking 2006 called it is this song is it.
Good news though, 2019 called and they sent back Paul's voice.
Ooh.
If only 2006 would send back Paul's voice from then. Oh, poor Paul.
Age makes fools of us all. Can't escape the dim specter of death. Grim specter of death.
Hey, we're doing the Billy Corgan thing next episode.
Yeah.
So, Wake Up Screamin'. I think of all this has the weakest vocal performance on the album in the sense that Paul's voice does noticeably crack, and you start to notice the signs of decay and age in Paul's voice. But it kind of works because it's just like an emo song. And so it's just like, be as emotional as possible and scream and be emo, but also I'm like 60, so I'm like an old guy doing emo, which is weird, but he still has the guy liner on the cover, so it's a emo song with even that dated 2006 drum beat sound we were talking about.
Oh yeah,
is on this track. But
So wait, when I, jokingly called this one "Wake Up Screamo" in my notes, that is a general consensus of Kiss fans.
yeah, this
Emo Paul is bad.
emo Paul is awkward and different. I wouldn't call it bad. Paul Stanley. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to interject that. I'm sorry.
I would say Paul Stanley singing about being in his bed in his room, all wrapped up in his own cocoon, is a very un-Paul Stanley lyric. And so we're not used to emo Paul Stanley hiding alone in his bedroom listening to My Chemical Romance. It's not what we expect from Paul Stanley. But man, it's a competent, catchy song. Like, it is good lyrics. With a good melody, even if the performance is maybe lackluster compared to the rest of the album. It's not lackluster in terms of power, but like, hey, maybe try another take. But I think it's a catchy, well-written song, great solo, and it keeps the momentum going of the album, so I enjoy it quite a bit. I didn't put it super high in my ranking because I think there's better songs in the album, but it's certainly a standout. It's certainly memorable, and I remember the first time I heard this being like, whoa, Paul Stanley went emo, this is weird.
I put this one third, so it's the first of the bad songs. It's the best of the bad.
The best of the worst.
Yeah, to quote some of my favorite YouTubers. Red Letter Media, whatever. But the lyrics in the chorus, when I looked at the lyrics for this song, okay, when I'm all alone, I dream of you. I wake up screaming 911. No one hears my cries. I just love the idea of Paul Stanley waking up from a deep sleep screaming 911.
Well, he's waking up screaming, wanting his ex-wife back, tormented soul. It's an emergency of love. 911.
He's waking up alone in a giant mansion. That's why nobody hears him. Although if his current wife was around, she will soon also be an ex-wife. Be like, why do you keep on waking up just blood-curdling screaming your ex's name? That's weird, Paul.
I will say,
this song is about Citizen Kane.
The alternate universe... the alternate universe long lost 80s Kiss mega hit Emergency of Love.
Yeah, seriously.
Is better than this song.
A song for Lipstick 3.
Emergency of Love.
Oh, that's good. You should definitely do that. Yeah, in agreement with that. One of my only notes for this one is that it has the most mishmashy lyrics on the album and kind of set me up for what I thought was going to be god awful all the way through.
Well, yeah, it's half emo, half 80s hair metal, all the cheesiness of both genres in a single song, but also all of the catchiness.
Silence. Let's just
everyone agree.
Emphasize that silence.
So, Mike, you ranked this at the bottom. Why do you not let Paul Stanley be true to himself emotionally?
Actually, let's be clear. I didn't rank it at the bottom. I believe I had it third from the bottom.
Well, towards the bottom.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, that did factor in because it would have been even lower. It's just, yeah, I mean, so you're listening to the album. Actually, on the leak I had, it was track 2 and Lift was track 3. And then on the final album, it's those are flips. But yeah, so Live to Win even has those dark, modern elements, and it's kind of like, whoa, shocking. But, then it also has that big uplifting chorus as well. And it's like nice and up-tempo and everything. But then with Lift and Wake Up Screaming, you just really get this heavy double dose of like very modern, very, like the modern production, is more like modern lyrics and everything, and it's just like, wow, what's going on here? So it was kind of one of my least favorite songs off the album for a long time. And then listening again, for this ranking, so I lived at the bottom, and just because I feel like that's the least Paul Stanley song on a Paul Stanley solo album. So then I'm like, okay, Wake Up Screaming, At least has like a little bit of a catchy chorus and everything. So I'll put that at number 2 from the bottom. But then I was listening to Loving With You Without You Now, and I'm like, no, I like that song, but I really think I get more enjoyment and a little bit more of that like Paul style from Wake Up Screaming. So that's, how it ended up for me where it did. Yeah, it's enjoyable. Like in the context of the album, it's just definitely one of those cases of it's like, oh yeah, I didn't see Paul doing this. In terms of like the vocal performance, it was definitely weird. It kind of has like that little bit of the crack at the end, and that's not something we were used to from Paul at the time. And it was just kind of like,
At the time.
oh, I get it. Like you wake up early in the morning and you're hoarse and everything. And here, I think at the time we were all like, oh yeah, it's a stylistic technique and everything. So it's interesting to think about that in hindsight. And then just on a more humorous level, Greg, you kind of mentioned like the opening lyric is just a very unusual one for Paul, and then Steve, you mentioned how he wakes up screaming in his mansion so no one hears him. And I always just kind of laugh. Again, this is picky, Mike, where the line is, in a bed in my room. So, like, I have one bed in my room. So, like, when I go to bed, I'm going to my bed. When Paul says in a bed, I'm like, do you have this giant bedroom with, like, 9 beds in it? And you just choose, like, I'm feeling like a firm mattress tonight. That should be my pick.
One for each of his ex-wives.
Yeah, I'm just like, why you're in a bed in your room? What's going on with the other beds in your room? And I don't know. It's just for some reason that always stands out to me.
I related to that line though because growing up, like at my family's house, growing up, I had bunk beds that had been taken apart, so there was 2 beds in my room. One I just used as kind of a storage / couch, but so that reminded me of my high school days.
I mean, I had 2 beds in my room.
I'm glad Paul wrote a song.
One of them was my brother's.
I just wish it was a better song.
I mean, you gave it 8
what'd you
points.
say, Steve?
I had 2 beds in my room at one point as a kid, but one of them was my brother's, and I think if I woke up in that one, I'd get hit.
Someone would wake up screaming.
My grandparents had 2 beds. They did the separate sleeping thing, so maybe that's what Paul Stanley did with his wives. He woke up in his wife's bed, or his ex-wife's bed.
And yeah, I did give this 8 points, but also, like I said, this, everything below 2 is not a good song. So it's just varying shades of things I don't like.
It is kind of funny that, Gavin, you had it at 3rd from the top, right? And I had it at 3rd from the bottom, and yet it sounds like I like the song more than you do.
That's probably
just how different we are on this album. And this isn't even one of my favorite albums of all time, so you just really hate this album.
Yeah, it's just, I was, and like I said, I was really excited because I hadn't heard this album before in its entirety before getting ready for this recording. And I was like, oh, cool, a new, Greg said it's like the last great Kiss album, and
he was wrong.
He was wrong. This truly means that Psycho Circus was the last great Kiss album.
You were wrong.
Let that sit with you for a little bit.
Gavin, you got to learn not to get excited for albums you haven't heard on this show.
Guys,
I think you're all wrong, and that Gene Simmons' Asshole is the last great Kiss album.
I mean, you haven't heard the last couple, so you could. I mean.
Oh, I have.
Well, but Steve hasn't. But you know,
I'm going to assume they're not great.
Like them.
Well, actually, no. We all know that Intense Transmission from Hell is the last great Kiss album.
Well, yes. Which is, hang on a second. That's, wasn't that the Japanese translation of Hotter Than Hell?
Jigoku Retsuden. So no, it's the re-recordings of classic Kiss songs done as a bonus disc.
For
God.
No, that was awful.
No, I was trolling. But hey, we have to do it for the show because it was released as a standalone album first.
Oh, I've never been drunk on this show before, but if I'm on that episode, I will have to be blitzed.
Not just blitzed, but blitzed.
Blitzed.
But yeah, Mike, you brought up a good point about how you and I both ranked it third from the bottom, but we love this song and think it's a very good song. And so despite us ranking it lower, it's just there's a lot of great material on this album. Julian, you ranked this number 2 in your ranking, and you've been kind of quiet.
Are you just like quietly seething, like plotting our demises over there?
I've been jabbing my voodoo dolls. Now, You know what? I always like this song. I don't care about the lyrics. It's Kiss lyrics. I mean, come on. I'll let him get away with sleeping in his room, wrapped up in his own fucking cocoon. I mean, that shit you cannot not shake your head about. It just is so unrock and roll. But I like the song. I don't like the production. I don't like the cardboard program drums. But it feels like a guilty pleasure, and it absolutely is to me. So there, it's my number 2 pick. I'm proud of it. I'm going to put on my blue thong, raise my fist, go climb a mountain, and bang you.
And Victor, did you have any closing thoughts on this one before we move on to the next track?
I think I already laid out my case.
And actually, I don't think we got Steve's thoughts on this one, I realize.
Oh, we may not have. I don't know. What did I say about this one? Wake Up Screaming? Oh, yeah. Mostly
Wake Up Screamo.
Yeah, Wake Up Screamo. Mostly just that it was weird that, like, he's really struggling to sing these notes on this one. It might be the stylistic, trying to go for the, I just woke up and my voice is groggy. Or maybe he even actually did that. It's like he recorded this one first thing in the morning to capture that effect. But it's not a good effect.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the rest of the album, there's not really vocal straining that you can really hear. And so it is, and I think you have to think it's an artistic choice if that's the case, because the rest of the album doesn't have that issue. So it is an artistic choice, but also it is an interesting foreshadowing of the future of Paul Stanley's vocals. And so honestly, I wish they just like cleaned this one up a little bit and just done a better take, because I think to have this vocal on there, I think takes away a little bit from how great the other vocals are, because you're just like, oh man, I wish there was like one last Paul Stanley CD where there wasn't like any signs of the vocals faltering. So, but it is still a great song. Speaking of great songs, next up on the list is Julian's number 1 song in the ranking. It's Not Me. Woo! Next on the list.
Yeah. Woohoo!
So right in the middle, buddy.
Oh. Screw you all. You're wrong.
No, actually, I even though I didn't quite have it that high, to back up Julian, when you guys sent the message earlier today that the podcast was running about half an hour late, I was like, well, that actually gives me time to listen to this album a whole other time in that period. And I was just going about the house. I think I made breakfast or whatever, and I had It's Not Me going, and I didn't remember it as being one of my highlights from the album, but I was like, this is a really good song. I'm enjoying this right now a lot more than I remembered, and I was almost wondering if I should have switched it with the one I had right above it, which was kind of a close call for me, but it's a solid song, and I can see how someone would rank it pretty high.
I put this one second from the top. So, Julian, I'm on your team here. This is a pretty good compromise tone-wise between the 2006 sound that was happening on the rest of this album and what Paul Stanley generally does. I think this is probably seems like it's probably a more true artistic thing for him to like adopt some affectations of what's happening in modern rock without completely going full bore in that style of production.
Always knew you're the smart one.
That actually is a great point as well. That really, I never thought of it that way, but you're completely right. It doesn't have the drenched effects of some of the other ones, and yet it still has those Paulisms. So it's a great analysis, Steve. I think we can end this podcast now.
Yep. Thank you for joining us. You can find us all Lipstick.
We still have more songs to go through. What I would say is I agree with Steve. I think it is a competent, pop rock song with 2006 production, but it still has old school rock and roll swagger that feels very Paul Stanley, but doesn't feel dated in any way. So like, it doesn't feel like, oh man, this is just an 80s song or this is just a 70s song. It feels like a veteran rock guy just writing a catchy pop rock single with contemporary production choices, but it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to be old school or trying too hard to be 2006. It feels very natural, very catchy, very driving, good lyrics again. So yeah, all in all, another home run for Paul Stanley.
Does gun in this one mean penis, though?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yes.
I like this one actually quite a bit as well. I think it has like some lack of dynamics that I'm not crazy about, but I think the chorus is really great and the bridge is pretty good. And I think if there was, maybe a little more dynamics like there are on some of the songs I have ranked higher than it might be significantly higher on my list. But I put it at number 5, so I got my exact pick for this episode, I guess.
But I would say... Oh, go ahead.
I put it at number 5 too, and I currently cannot remember how it goes.
What I would say is, I'm not going to counter your point because I don't have anything to say to that point, but I'll counter Victor's point.
It's forgettable. Hit the drums, Joey.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this one has a very great driving drum beat, a lot of swagger, like really cool rhythm to it. And I would say that I remember when I wrote the Lipstick Generation song, The Flash, I wrote it because I was annoyed with dynamics in music. And it's like, why do all these like long songs have these parts where they slow down? I just want something that just like keeps you pumped throughout the entire piece. And with dance music, it is very much about like keeping the rhythm going, keeping the momentum going. And sometimes you don't necessarily want dynamics if just something is driving and has momentum. And so because I think the song is driving and has momentum, the lack of dynamics don't hurt it in the way that maybe it might hurt a Loving You Without You now. Because a ballad, if it's soft, you probably don't want to say soft the entire time unless, the melody is just that phenomenal or the emotion is that vulnerable. So with a rock song that has kind of a dance rhythm to it, having that same momentum and lack of dynamics is answer, I think, to this piece's benefit.
And I think you're not wrong. I just think for me, there are a couple of songs above it that do have dynamics that I like more. And I think I have one that doesn't have tremendous amounts of dynamics that I also like more. But I mean, this one's good. I like it.
This one's the most Paul Stanley-ish of any song on the album. And, when you get to the point in the album when it actually comes on, I remember, listening to this album the first time and it finally comes on and it was really like a punch that the album needed. It was uplifting. It was dynamic. It's got great music, great vibe, great lyrics, and a wonderful vocal and some really good guitar music. So it's everything I want from Paul Stanley without him getting sappy or syrupy or singing about, love's lost and woe is me in my cocoon. And, it's the message as well in the song, that, people get put up on a pedestal and he doesn't want to be that. So it does have a message. He's saying something in the song and he's rocking the hell out. And I was also thrilled to see Holly Knight's name in the co-writing credits when, all that was kind of coming to light of who he's working with on the album. So it was, if there's a winner on this album, then it's this song for me.
Talking about this now in terms of the tempo and just the dynamics or lack thereof or all of that, just I had forgotten, but back when it came out, my cousin and I used to describe this song as just having that Paul pulse. That's what we would call it, that Paul pulse, and it just has that feeling of Paul. Like you said, Julian, you said it's the most Paul song on the album, and I've never specifically thought of that, but I can't necessarily say you're wrong about that. It's probably up there, yeah.
The Paul pulse, I like that. I'm going to steal it and use it somewhere.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Stanley does definitely have a very unique... he's a very unique rhythm guitar player, and a lot of his songs, do have that Paul pulse, as mentioned, and this is a quintessential example of the Paul Stanley pulse. But it is not number 1 in the ranking. We still have a few to go. Next up
I'm talking about Steve's creepy voice.
That's fair. Next up on the list, we have Where Angels Dare.
Oh, too low.
So, Gavin, you ranked this album. This is Gavin's number 1.
This is my number one.
Oh, okay, so you said you liked the top two, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the top. Yeah, this should have been Live to Win should have been a single, and it should have been called Where Angels Dare, with a B-side called Live to Win.
So we know what your number two choice is.
Well, not to play my hand, but
but I did.
We'll find out.
Spoilers. That thing I said is that thing. I think.
I could be lying. But this song, and I know Paul said, not wanting to go back to 1978 or whatever, but God damn it, that's the only good solo album he made. So maybe he should take some cues from 1978, and he did with this tune. This song could have been on the 78 solo album. It certainly would have been better than Hold Me, Touch Me, but no, this song, I would venture to say I like it, which is high praise for this album from me. It's a good rock tune. It's got some great Paul Stanley guitar stuff on it. I like his voice on it. It's a good song, and that's probably one of two times you'll hear me say that on this episode.
I think this is the best riff on the album, and if I'm being honest, I don't say this very often, but this album is so short, I honestly would not have minded if this was meant to be the closing track, which I don't necessarily think it had to be. But if it was going to be, they could have added an extra minute or two to make it a little more epic, since this album is so goddamn short. But this song rules, and it slowly climbed my rankings as I listened to it more.
This song has the same vibe as Goodbye on the 1978 album.
Yes, I agree with that.
Which is one of my favorites from that album.
Totally same here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hot take, Troy, and I think
totally.
this is superior to Goodbye.
Greg, get out of here.
I'm the host.
I don't care.
No, Victor, I agree though with what you were saying. The demeanor of the song, something about it kind of calls for like another minute or two. It has like what should be an epic song, but it's still just kind of condensed in the same length of an average song. So, and that might be, I like it. It's overall a structurally good song and everything, but ever since it came out, there's always been something about it that just isn't top tier to me. Like, I don't know why. There's just something lacking, and maybe it's just like that little sense of epicness or something, but it's a good song that I have no issues with, but it just isn't like an all-time classic for me, and I can't really put my finger on why.
Oh man, this is a great abbreviated Steinman song. I love it.
Yeah, I honestly think it would have benefited from being earlier in the album and then putting one of the shitty songs at the end.
Yes, Flip It and Bulletproof in the order. There you go.
Oh shit!
Whoa! Whoa! Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know if I have much more, but I think this album is just so short. They could have had something bigger at the end. I don't know if I love this as a closer, but yeah, I certainly could have listened to it for longer than it is.
I mean, out of everything that's on this album, I think it's the best candidate for an album closer. As for being longer, look, like I said in the group chat earlier when, someone said, I forgot, but I made some reference to this album feeling like it is very long. And it wasn't until Mike put how long it was that it dawned on me that, oh my God, it is in real time only 33 minutes long, but in emotional effort and physical stamina, this goddamn album is a day and a half. And this perhaps we are wanting this song to be longer because it is one of the only few shards of light that manages to fly past the dog shit caked window and illuminate our sad sad, pale skin from being in the darkness that is the Live to Win record. For
So
the
it's dark
emotional
because
day
the
and a
window's
half.
covered in dog shit?
Exactly.
So this song's like a brick, or?
No, it's the sunlight.
Yo, dog, I'm
permeates
gonna let you finish. But Paul Stanley's Live to Win, one of the greatest albums of all time. All time.
You cannot mean this. This is a troll.
You cannot
Yeah,
make
see, I
this
struggle
Kanye
with that,
reference,
'cause Paul
especially
is
when
my
the Better Than
favorite-
This Kanye album came out 2 days ago. Oh, I haven't actually listened to it yet.
I haven't heard it yet either.
I made that mistake this morning, but this song does follow Loving You Without You now, which is why it's like a breath of fresh air in a feces-covered gymnasium locker's toilet. It is why that poo is smeared all over the window. Anything is going to be good after Loving You Without You now, and anything that follows that song is going to be absolutely gloriously wonderful, even if it is too short.
That's a big word, like gymnasium there.
Right. Mike, I'll let you go next, and then I'll go, because I still haven't gotten the chance to talk about this song, so I'll let you go next.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of already got to interject my thoughts on it, but I was just gonna say, in terms of you calling it one of the greatest albums of all time, like I want to be there. Paul Stanley is my favorite, like, individual rock star of all time, so I want, like, to think that about his albums.
It's okay, I just like Paul Stanley more than you. That's cool, dude.
Oh, especially if it's a solo album. But it's good, but it's not quite in that level for me. And at the same time, while I totally think Gavin hates it way too much, I got to give that guy a ton of credit for just the concept of reviewing anything, music or otherwise, as a dog shit caked window is just phenomenal. I love that line. I'm just gonna walk up to people I don't like now and be like, "You're a dog shit caked window." You know that? That's just a great line.
Dog shit
but
caked
yeah,
gymnasium window.
Gymnasium.
We'll combine, Julian and Gavin's things.
But yeah, well, I guess I already kind of said what I feel about the song, but one just odd thing or whatever. I love the random, like, John Shanks, you, me. Like, it just, I don't know why those are odd to me. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. I think it's because it's a solo album and it's not like Paul and John Shanks have been these long-term collaborators. Like, on a Kiss album, if it was Gene doing that, I'd be like, oh, cool that he had Gene do that. But I think on this album, I'm just like, oh, yeah, some random, well, not random guy. I mean, the guy's done a lot in music, but, like, random in terms of Paul's history. I'm like, this guy kind of has, like, a fairly prominent vocal for just, like, a guest studio appearance. I don't know. It's just weird to me, but not necessarily bad.
That's what I love about it. I love that counterpart that John does on the album.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a cool concept. It just, I'm picturing, like, Gene doing it or something. It'd be cool. Like, I don't know. I guess to me, little parts like that are cool when I actually feel like it's a band unit as opposed to, like, session people or whatever.
And that's why it's a very Paul Stanley thing, because that means, Gene, this could have been you, but I hate you. So it's not. So I'm going to use someone else.
See, but the true joke is on Paul because Gene put out the slightly better album.
That's true.
All right, so Steve, you haven't gone yet. What's your
but
thoughts
do you remember
on this
what I was
one?
going to say about people I don't like? You're a dog shit caked window.
What I'm fascinated by with everyone's reviewing of this one is a lot more cursing has come out in this one, and specifically people have been dropping a lot of GDs. One of the few curses I don't like to say, gosh darns, to put it euphemistically, which just again reminds me of Where Eagles Dare, a better song with almost this exact same title.
Yeah.
I put this one fourth from the bottom. It's it's below the I forget what the name of it is. It's below the second to none honest ballad cutoff, just right below it. Probably largely because it was a mediocre song that ended up with comparisons to better songs with similar titles. I also like Where the Boys Fear to Tread better than this one, Greg.
Well, yes.
All right, this is a much better song than Where Boys Fear to Shit.
Dog shit. Where boys
dog
fear to
shit. Dog
Where
shit.
boys
Where
dogs fear to shit.
on Windows. Smear it on Windows. For me, this is a clear highlight of the album. I think so. This is a John 5 co-write, if I remember correctly, and I think he also played guitar on the track, which is also connecting him to Bat Out of Hell 3, same month, also has a John 5 co-write and him playing guitar on the album. So John 5 on two.
John 5 knows the Misfits.
Are you?
So that means
I'm not
that
sure.
title
Are you
must be
confusing
intentional.
John 5 and John Shanks? Because I know John Shanks is on the vocal, but then is it also John 5 on the guitar?
It's a John 5 co-write.
Yeah, he plays guitar on this.
Yeah, so he's
So many Johns on this song.
right. But for me, this is just classic Paul Stanley. This doesn't sound like dated or 2006 at all. The riff is phenomenal, which I assume is all John 5's idea. And got a really great old school, like, driving rock beat to it. Phenomenal build, phenomenal hooks, just incredibly catchy. The vocals are way up front in the mix, but it just makes it seem more epic. And I think the shortness of the track is to its benefit, because when it ends, it just abruptly ends and you want more of it. And music that leaves you wanting more, it really packs a punch. So when you see a band live and they play a shorter set, but every song is great and they just kill it, and you're like, I want more, and then they stop playing, and then you're like, I gotta go buy their CD because I need more of that band. I love what they did. It makes you that much more invested rather than overstaying your welcome. So this song, being as tight and concise as it is, makes it a great album closer. And it's just a phenomenal song that if it was on a Kiss album, this would be a standout track. It's absolutely great. I have zero flaws with it, and I barely even notice any 2006 isms with it. It's just great all around.
Because it's timeless rock and roll, which is what the best of Paul's 78 album was. And so when he thinks in that mode, he creates great stuff. But when he tries to be like Mr. Pop 1978, Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart, or when he tries to be, hey, Aerosmith did a couple cool power ballads, let me write 5 of them and put them on the same album, or when he tries to be, Stained, it falls flat.
Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley. Paul shit-stained window in Mark Cicchini's collectionly. I don't know why I'm gunning so hard for Mark today, but
It's been a while since I could say that my windows were all clean.
But yeah, any other thoughts on Where Angels Dare before we move on?
Where Angels Fear to Tread?
Sure, why not?
Oh, I forgot the setup of the Billy Corgan, Paul Stan. Okay, cut that. You can edit that out.
Nope, leaving that in.
Ah, shit.
All right, next up on the list, we're in the top 3. We've got Bulletproof next on the list.
I love that LaRue song.
Right? That's such a better song than this one.
This
Great.
time, baby, I'll be
Proof.
Yeah.
I think that both songs are great, but I enjoyed this one quite a bit. This one, it feels probably the most like a Kiss song out of all the songs on the album. But it's I don't know. It's just, for me, this is just a good Kiss song that's on this Paul Stanley solo album. And I remember that a local Kiss tribute band added the song into their set after this album came out. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool and fits in pretty well. So I like it. The music video for this would have been amazing. Would have been damn Yankees-esque with bullets reflecting off Paul Stanley rocking too hard. But sadly, no video was ever produced for it. But yeah, it's a kick-ass rock song. What more to say? Great vocal, great riffing. It sounds like a Kiss song. It's cool.
Were there any music videos for this album?
No.
There was an episode of South Park.
Yeah, there's an episode of South Park.
Well, yeah. Which is, I should have put that as the best thing about this album.
Right? Second best thing about this album, Billy Corgan's nipples. Best thing, that South Park episode.
Yeah, after Paul saw Gene's video for Asshole, he decided to never make another video again.
Where was that when Modern Day Delilah was being bandied around? Where was that decision not to do anything else? Video-wise, I mean.
Who knows? So, Julian, you ranked this the lowest out of all the panelists. Why don't you like Kiss?
This has too many oh yeahs in it for me. And it just
This is
goes
Paul
on.
Stanley.
You like Kiss?
Why don't I like Kiss?
You don't like Paul Stanley rocking and saying, "Oh yeah"? I guess you just don't like Kiss, Julian.
Yeah, that's what running a message board will do to you.
Hard-hitting
Really,
journalism on the lifted panel.
I just have nothing really good to say about Bulletproof, other than, it's the worst of the good songs, really, before you get to Every Time I See You Around, Second to None, and Loving You Without You Now, for me. And that's fine. Again, something has to be one of the less good rocking songs on this album. And this one just, kept getting bumped down the list as I was doing it. And all I could that is literally all my notes for it. Too many oh yeahs. That's all I've got to justify my choice. And I'll just leave it there and go smear some dog shit on a window.
I've actually got one more thing to add before I cede the floor to the rest of the panel, but I realize this song is so great in its placement in the album because the ebb and flow of the album starts off with very dark, cynical, angsty Paul going through heartbreak. But then as you get into Bulletproof and some of the more rockin' songs in the second half, it's Paul Stanley regaining his confidence, regaining his swagger. And so the flow of the album makes it almost, a concept album in a way where it begins with the heartache and then, then regaining confidence throughout. And, then closing with Where Angels Dare, which is maybe the most swaggering. So I think this song sort of like enters into the next phase of the emotional journey, which is Paul Stanley saying, I'm getting over heartache, I'm getting over pain, and I'm now feeling invincible in life because I've got a new partner who's really hot, and I have great sex with her. I'm bulletproof, Paul Stanley.
If I were the second wife, this would be the one that I'd want him to play at live shows rather than the much more boring.
And he did. He did.
Yeah, so he played this, and this feels more sincere than Second to None, which I still think is a great song, but this is Paul getting his mojo back in song form, and I like that a lot.
See, if he only had really doubled down on the God or My Girlfriend thing and joined the clergy, then it would have been an entirely different Second to None. Sorry, babe, but you're my second love after Jesus. Also, I took a vow of celibacy. And rock!
It reminds me of that collaboration once again between Paul Stanley and Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
Bulletproof with butterfly wings.
That actually sounds great.
Or the David Byrne, Paul Stanley collaboration, which would just be Bulletproof because David Byrne just put out a song called Bullet on his most recent album.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, Bulletproof.
So
See, Greg, I agree, though.
go ahead.
I feel like, with what you were saying about this almost being a concept album, obviously I wouldn't officially call it that, but I think it's the closest Paul's ever done to a concept album in his career. And honestly, I know you love Music from the Elder. I'm not trying to shit on it, but in terms of where they ended up, I feel like Live to Win is actually a more cohesive concept album than Music from the Elder in its final state.
Hot take? I think I actually agree with you.
Thank you. And again, this is not this. We can shit on Music from the Elder or jizz on it anytime we want, but I'm not even going to do that right now. But thank you.
I made jizz for it, but I wouldn't say I jizz on it.
Thank you for understanding what I'm saying, at least. But yeah, I've always looked at it that way. I mean, Live to Win. The song starts off. It's dark, but it's also got the elements of I'm going to get through this. Then you really have the depression and the struggle with Lift and Wake Up Screaming. Then you have just man, I'm just heartbroken now. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just heartbroken with Every Time I See You Around. And then, yeah, but to me, Bulletproof is Enter Erin. I got this new gal. I'm invincible with her. And then you go to All About You, and it's just dude, I am slamming my hot new girlfriend, and life is awesome. And then, Second to None. It's I'm marrying my hot girlfriend. And then I always saw It's Not Me as maybe his ex-wife was just do you ever miss the way things used to be, Paul? And he's like, hell no, get out of here. It's not me. And then and then my interpretation of Loving You Without You Now was just like missing Aaron on the road. And then Where Angels Dare is just kind of a triumphant closer to a very loosely based concept album.
Or
and that's how I've always seen it.
What I could say with Loving You Without You Now is acknowledging that maybe there's a part of him that always is going to love his ex, but
Yeah, I can deal with
acknowledging that, like, I'm in a better place when I'm apart from you, and I just need to move on to, you know, this different era in my life. So
Sure,
it's
and it's the
still
mother of
works
his
in
first
that
child and
concept.
everything. Yeah, I can totally get with that. It's a concept album either way.
Have we ever considered that Loving You Without You Know is actually about Dr. Jesse Hilson?
You might be the first person to ever put that theory out there.
And in fact, maybe there aren't any songs about the hot second wife. Maybe it's all about Dr. Jesse Hilson.
The Jesse Hilson concept album.
Yeah.
Oh, but and then again, sorry. So that's my take on the concept album of it. As far as Bulletproof, yeah, it's refreshing where it hits on the album because you got some darkness and then a ballad, although it's a great ballad. And then finally with Bulletproof, you just have like a riff. There's not a lot of those like modern for the time production elements. It's just a feel-good rockin' song. For me, though, I didn't think it needed those female vocals. They sound out of place on that song to me for whatever reason. I don't mind the ooh yeahs in general. Like, I don't mind Paul doing them. I don't know. To me, it was almost just like, hey, remember how Move On had those chicks singing on it? I got some for Bulletproof too, and I don't know. They just
Silver
sound out of
Spoon.
place to me. Well, yeah, but I just meant in terms of solo albums. So yeah, I'm not always anti-female vocals, but people who know me well know that I want them to be used very sparingly. Just the song has to call for it. Like, to me, they do something on Silver Spoon, so I dig it. But on Bulletproof, I would have not used those. But yeah, very cool song and very cool to get it live.
Speaking of guys who love female vocals, Victor, you ranked this as your number 2.
Yeah, so this one, I was cautioned at maybe not making this comparison, but for me, this song is like a couple of changes away from sounding like later period DC talk. And that made me love it a lot.
Hey, that's topical.
Is this pre or post Jesus Freak?
Post. I would say Supernatural.
I only know that album from a sticker that some cousins of mine had. DK instead of DC.
Then that reference is not topical, listeners.
Also, remember, this is coming out months later, so
It's true.
Yeah, it sounds like a Supernatural era DC talk song, especially in the verses. And it kind of has, somebody was saying earlier that this sounds kind of like classic Kiss, which I also, famously understand on a deep level what that means. And, I could appreciate it in this song. It was kind of like, oh, so this is like just kind of saying the goofiest first thing in your headiest thing about whatever you happen to be talking about, writing that down and calling it a song, and then just rocking to it. That's a very acceptable songwriting technique as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, so all around high praise for Bulletproof. Steve, you ranked it, what, 3rd, it looks like?
Yep.
So that's because you're, diehard Kiss fan at this point.
It's because I'm a diehard DC Talk fan.
That
Yeah.
Hey you, it's Jesus. That's the only song from that record I know. I had to look it up. And I don't know any more of it than that.
Just like to correct Greg on his all praise all around. Not quite.
All right, all praise all around, except for Julian, who doesn't like Kiss for some reason.
Oh, I don't like this song either.
See, it's catching.
Yeah, it's below my number 2, so therefore it's not a good song.
Gavin, why don't you like Kiss?
Greg, I love Kiss. Perhaps I love Kiss enough to not love everything they do.
Hey, I love You've heard
Loving something unconditionally doesn't mean you love it more. It just means you love it sadder.
You heard my boomerang rant. I do not love everything Kiss has ever done.
He loves everything Kiss has done except one song.
And this isn't even a Kiss tune, so,
Look, I think, all right, quick poll across the panel. Is Paul Stanley Kiss? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
You know, I have a lot of information to go off of, so I'm gonna have to compute for a little bit.
You're the tiebreaker.
Well, there's Mike
I'm
also.
the tiebreaker.
Well, yeah, until
Oh
Mike votes.
God,
Say no.
this is
Yes.
evil.
Yes. Who steers the ship through the stormy sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
I'll give my answer if I can have a caveat.
All right, you know what, Mike? What's your answer? Then we'll let Victor go last.
Yeah, I'll give an answer if I can have a caveat with it.
Sure.
So, is Paul Stanley Kiss? I will say yes, but I will say I do really not think of this as a Kiss album like you do, Greg, and I'm glad that there are two much better Kiss albums that come after it.
I'm so conflicted
Awesome.
right now.
On one level,
and
he
I-
won the vote. On the other level, he disagreed
Well,
about
no,
this being
the
the last
vote
good
hasn't
one.
been won yet because Victor can still make this a tie.
Well, I am prepared to change my vote if I too get a caveat.
Sure.
My caveat will be yes, but true Kiss is Paul Stanley when he's working against Gene Simmons. So
Which is this album? He's working against Asshole.
Okay, I will change my vote to yes, but only when he's working with Kiss. And when he's not working with Kiss, then who cares? And Gene Simmons is the true Kiss.
Okay, so we have confirmed that Paul Stanley is Kiss. Victor's vote doesn't matter. Thank you for changing your votes with your caveats.
I vote no, by the way.
Hey, you know what? I go back to no as well, since my caveat was bastardized.
All right, well,
I'll
we're-
stick with the changed vote. Why not?
all right, so Paul Stanley's Kiss, it's been confirmed. And next up on the list, we have the number 2 song in the ranking, All About You, next on the list.
Boo.
Yeah.
Oh, this one was the one with the fun guitar effects. I liked that.
Yeah, got a little bit funky, but not white people funky, which is
Not in
terrible.
the way that anytime a white person says we're about to get a little funky, it gets the opposite of that.
Right.
If you mean funky in terms of the dog shit smeared on the window is beginning to rot even further, then sure. But if you mean funk in terms of any sort of enjoyable bounce to the song, then sir, I will have to say this. Soul Power from Machina 2 rocks harder, funks harder than anything on this album.
No, you're incorrect. This is more funky than Soul Power, which should not be the case. A James Brown cover should not be less funky than a Paul Stanley 2006, emo era
Well, you're
song.
in luck because it isn't.
See, I'm just surprised by this panel today, and in a good way for me, because I always put Lift near the bottom or at the bottom, even when this album came out, and I always thought very highly of All About You. I gave it number 2. But the people I remember talking to on message boards, like back at the time, were all about Lift, and All About You was definitely one that took a beating. Like, oh, it's cheesy, it's gay. Like, why do you like that song so much? So I'm like, okay. So I came into this thinking I was going to be the odd man out. So I'm shocked that my ranking of it ended up being the consensus ranking as well. I just love it because it's probably just closer to what I wanted from the album overall. Like, it's fun. It's just that upbeat Paul. It's got a big chorus. It's a Paul Stanley sex song. As I've told you many times on podcast after podcast, like 13-year-old horny Michael never grew up and still enjoys those songs.
Is this actually a sex song? In my mind, I Pull Your Body Closer. I think she's not actually there. This is a Paul Stanley jerking it song.
Okay, sexual song, if you will.
Right, sexual, but I think lyrically it's about him saying, like, hey, girl, it doesn't matter if we bang tonight. I just want to be around you because just being around you is sexy. So whatever you want to do tonight is cool with me. I'm hoping it's me, but either way, babe, I'm just happy to be here.
You could have an interpretation of
So
it.
does
I
he
guess
play
I
bass
thought
on
of
this
it-
track?
I think of it as a sex song because, giving it up till the morning light. But if you think they're just hanging out playing Scrabble till the morning light, that's cool too, like whatever they're into.
Yeah, playing Street Fighter, whatever they're doing till the morning light.
So
Playing Street Fighter till the morning light would be an excellent use of anyone's time. So I could get on board with that.
sort of in that vein, I have this as my number 1 song, and similar to Bulletproof, how it sort of sounds like a DC Talk song. This one sounds like it could be on the soundtrack to F-Zero GX on the GameCube.
Nice.
And I think as I was going through the week and, doing activities that weren't listening to this album, I actually found myself singing this song a lot. And that's major points. It also kind of rocks. It's I don't have a lot to say about it aside from I love F-Zero GX.
Well, Julian, you're famous for your love of F-Zero GX, yet you ranked the song in the middle.
Yeah, I like it more than Bulletproof. No, there's a couple of really good things about this song. Number one is the sound of the guitars, which I really dig. And I love Paul's vocal phrasing. Just like the underlying melody of these lyrics is like really cool. So it's a good song from that perspective. Also, it's, what he's writing about is, you put in a hard day's work and you look forward to spending the night with someone. I think he said it doesn't matter who it is, and just making them the center of attention. That's basically all night. So therefore, it's got to be a good song.
It also has nonsense lyrics like do 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 like all night.
So basically, this is a Bruce Springsteen song about a hard-working, man just wanting to go home and, shower his woman with love. So,
Ew.
Wants to shower his woman with something.
Well,
you
and
swallow
Steve,
everything when you're with me.
that do part is actually about the aforementioned dog shit window.
That's his day job, is scraping dog shit off windows.
So, Gavin, did you have any thoughts on this one in particular?
Bad. I mean, it's one of those ones that it didn't do anything for me. It's not as
anything for you?
offensively. It didn't do anything for me. It's not bad like Second to None or Loving You Without You or Lift, but it's not good like Where Angels Dare or passable like another song that we haven't talked about yet. It's inoffensive. It's blah. And Paul Stanley is so good at doing things that aren't blah that when he does something like that, it's not good.
I also think that this song and Bulletproof both benefit from the sequencing, which many of the songs before them in the album track listing don't, where like it gets like progressively darker and darker until you get Every Time I See You Around, which is kind of like tonal whiplash. And then I think Bulletproof is actually kind of musically a nice transition out of that. And then this is just a killer follow-up to that.
Yep, so all around praise of this track, except for Gavin. But hey, we're at the number one song on the rankings, so let's go through the list from the bottom to the top. Loving You Without You Now. Lift. Second to None. Every Time I See You Around ranked way too low. Wake Up Screaming. It's Not Me. Where Angels Dare. Bulletproof. All About You. But the best song on Live to Win by Paul Stanley, according to this panel of experts, and Steve.
And Victor.
Live to Win. Well, Victor is the senior Kiss expert on the show. So, but in a shocking twist, never happens on any of our episodes, a song that Victor ranked in the middle ended up winning the ranking.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
I can't believe that.
This one is 9 points ahead of the next one. Like, that is a huge spread for the rest of this ranking. Almost everything else is within 1 or 2 points of the next song from it.
The song just lives to win,
Yeah.
So, Victor, we'll let you go first. I mean, you're the Kiss expert here. Why is this not a great Kiss song?
I enjoyed this album a lot, and the only reason this song falls is sort of that sequencing thing I was just saying, is like, as the album goes on, I find myself enjoying it more and more. and this one's at the very beginning. But I do think it's, you know, it rocks. It's pretty killer. The lyrics are admittedly goofy, but as I've said, I'm more than happy to laugh at this album while enjoying it. And my only note on it is I can see why this is the title track. But I don't have a ton of thoughts about it because it was the only song I had heard beforehand and I already knew it. So it wasn't as much of revelatory interest to me as the rest of the songs.
So Steve, you're a nerd. What did you feel about Live to Win?
I just thought it was really great that Breaking Benjamin did a style parody of 80s montage songs and just really captured the whole feel so well.
And then you're like, oh, this was just Paul Stanley.
Yeah. That's the joke. No, but no, yeah, I'm like 90% confident that there is some tongue-in-cheekness with this song, that like the lyrics are so goofy. It comes off as such a parody of the style, and happening in 2008. He must have known this. He must have done that on purpose and be like, all right, I'm going to write a song that sounds like a rock montage song, and just is like taking the piss out of myself.
So here's the thing. I don't think there's any sense of irony to this song.
Really?
I think
neither do I.
Yeah, no, this is... if you listen to Paul Stanley interviews from this time, he is very sincere about this. Incredibly sincere. It's just like, he wrote a training montage song in the emo era. Like, how do I, deal with these conflicting emotions of wanting to write a kick-ass training montage song, but wanting it to sell in the emo era? I guess I'll just have to make it a little bit dark and moody.
He wrote a song, a training montage song, with the lyric, live to win till you die, massive abuse of apostrophes throughout. And then before the album came out, he licensed it to South Park to use in a video game training montage. And he did this entirely without irony?
Yes, and
Steve, if this was anybody else, I would agree that seems fishy.
Right?
But even Gene, I would say that would be fishy, and yes, it would be aloof. But Paul, I think, believes in the open table that is that platitude. I think he believes in that enough to like put it out and mean it, and God bless him for it.
But the thing is, I think that that getting on South Park was probably Doc's doing more than Paul's doing individually. I think just he was looking for any chance he could use to promote the album. And hey, South Park wants a training montage song. Well, convenient, we have this new album to promote. And just like did the right hustle at the right time, where, I mean, it has become a famous internet cult song where like the video, I think, for it has millions of views, where it's just like, I think I saw a video like live to win 10 hours and just the background is just the World of Warcraft logo. So
he probably made more money licensing it to South Park than he did from selling the album.
Probably, but I think this song, I think Paul described the philosophy of this song of live to win being try your best, work your hardest, and live with the mentality that you're going to succeed. And then even if you fail, you can fail with pride because you know you tried your best. And so that is living to win, is living life on your own terms. There are things that are out of your control, but the way you engage with the world and the way you choose to interact with the world is your choice. And so he described that as the live to win philosophy. And it is a philosophy that I unironically subscribed to for many, many years, because I'm like, fuck yeah, training montage song, I get this. As you continue to receive failure after failure after failure, it's harder to be as sincerely feeling the live to win message. But I think it is still a good message. It's still uplifting. I think it's sincere. And I think it is a well-written song that Crazy Crazy Mike once described as Carnival of Souls meets Crazy Nights in a single song, which is a weird combination, but it works into something that is distinct, memorable, and I would dare say a classic of the era.
I think it's very interesting that you threw me in there like that, and I totally agree, because I was totally thinking of it's a more modern Crazy Nights in a way, where it kind of juxtaposes. Well, in the case of Live to Win, it actually feels dark at times, with the dark verses and then the uplifting choruses. But lyrically, even like a Crazy Nights, sometimes days are so hard to survive, or people try to take my soul away. Just some, lyrically, that's just like the negative aspect of it. And then obviously you have, frustrated, degraded, down before you're done, all those lines on Live to Win, and then just this huge chorus. And yeah, I agree with you and those who say it's not Paul being ironic in any way. I don't think he sees it that way. And especially when you look at the rest of the album and just the themes and what he was going through in terms of the divorce and relationships. And I genuinely think he was feeling depression and really struggling with things, but also trying to adhere to his lifelong just live to win, keep going. Like I built this huge thing for myself throughout my career, throughout my life. So I think it's all very sincere. The South Park montage was insane to me back then. I was just like, I never expected this to be a huge album. Like I knew that times had changed. Like I maybe Paul was hoping to get some sort of secret smash success. I knew it was never going to be a big seller, but the fact that it made it to South Park was awesome to me. I had no clue how that happened. I didn't know if they were just huge fans or what, but to me it was a secret little blessing. And my tiny little favorite part of that whole montage is just where they're like, a hope, a chance. And I use that line so much throughout my life. I refer to that as, I don't know, I refer to that very often. And it's great when someone knows what I'm talking about, but often they don't. If I got it about 2 years later in my life, when at that point I would have probably connected with it even more when I myself was going through a big breakup, but it's not the song's fault that it landed where it landed.
So what you're saying is, as frustrated as you were that it took so long to come out, you wanted it to come out 2 years later.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Selfish Mike.
No, no, actually, in all sincerity, I actually wanted it to come out about 2 years earlier, and completely serious, that's really probably also when that relationship should have ended. So timing on a lot of things just did not work in my favor during that decade. So, life.
If this song would have come out 1 year later, I probably would have insisted that it be played while I walked the stage for my high school graduation.
I would love it.
That would have been that would have been a fun use of this song.
And I don't think we got Julian's thoughts on this one yet.
This is Paul's fuck you song to everyone. This is fuck you, Gene. This is fuck you, Ace and Peter, anyone. This is fuck you, ex-wives. This is fuck you, everyone who's ever held him down. And, a reading from the Book of Bert. It's a great motto. It's a great mantra. It's a great way to live. So you live to accomplish your goals. You live to succeed in spite of people who think you can't, Gene. And that's what this whole album really is, because at the time, there have been times that he and Gene haven't gotten along, and it was kind of coming through in a lot of the interviews that he was giving about this album. And this is another quote that always stuck with me. I'm not about selling sizzle. My album's about delivering the steak. I mean, that's so Paul Stanley. It won't matter who's involved or what color the cover is. That's not what it's about. And that's kind of dissing Gene in particular, because Gene's album was the absolute polar opposite to this, because Gene's was about all the guests. It always is. It's about the design and everything, him wearing a tie. So, that's what I like about this song, that it's kind of Paul laying out his personal philosophy, and you get it. It's a stupid title, Live to Win, because obviously you have to be alive to win or lose, but that's not what he's saying, that you have to keep on living and keep on trying, like Greg was saying. And it really is a good motto for anyone, even if it seems utterly and horrendously contrived. And I always have images of Charlie Sheen saying "winning" when I
Tiger blood.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a surprisingly good anthem, despite its kind of shortcomings in those ways. So, bravo, Paul. It's certainly better than the album cover.
I think the album cover is fine. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's aggressively bad. It's fine.
Sort of tells you exactly what you're going to get. Bunch of Paul Stanley.
Yeah, and it's mildly emo. So it's like, is this going to be emo Paul Stanley? Yes. So, I mean, it's accurate for what it is. I'm not super big on the whole tape theme in the cover art. I think that's a little goofy. But you know what? I'm happy with this album overall. In my opinion, this is the last great Kiss album in the Kiss catalog. I know pretty much everyone on the panel disagrees with me, but I think that this is an incredibly strong album full of great songs, great performances from Paul. I think, you know what? The latter two Kiss albums could have dealt with a couple ballads like Every Time I See You Around. I think they would have been much improved. So, I love this album. I am shocked by the ranking, but, what else is new? What did you guys think? Were you guys happy with the ranking? Anyone surprised by it? Mike, you seemed a little bit surprised by just, this ranking just falling in line with your beliefs generally.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised, and not just from everything should be the way I want it to be way, but just because really 13 years ago on message boards, like I said, I just remember Lift getting a lot of love and All About You getting a lot of flack, and so I'm glad the six of us were able to somewhat rectify that today.
Yeah. I'm guessing everyone else is like, yeah, the ranking's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, yeah, it's an album where I had a feeling when I sent in my rankings that I was going to be very, mine were very disparate from everyone else's. And, I really wanted to like a Paul Stanley solo album from 2006. And goddammit, I tried. But at the end of the day, it's funny because I often, thinking about the two Gene solo albums versus the two Paul Stanley solo albums, the 78 ones often switch around for me between Paul and Gene as, well, second only to Ace's solo album, which is far and away the best of the 78 solo albums. But with the 2000s solo albums, I think far and away, Gene Simmons' Asshole is a much more interesting listen. The highs on it are higher. The lows on it are low enough to be funny. As to where this one, with Live to Win, the highs are fine. They kind of approach the same feeling I get when I'm listening to Move On or Goodbye or Tonight You Belong to Me. But the lows are not low enough to break that barrier of, oh my God, I can't believe someone put this on tape. This is so funny. It's just he wanted his, he wanted to do Every Time I Look at You Again and have it be as big as he probably thought it should have been, so I hate that I don't like this album. But I also don't like the album because it's not a good album.
Even though you and I very much disagree on the album and also the whole Gene and Paul 78 versus Gene and Paul 2000s, we're in so much disagreement on all of that. But I will say, oddly enough, when it comes to Asshole versus Live to Win, Asshole did come closer to the album that I expected than Live to Win. But that's just because I had much lower expectations for Asshole. And I did expect it to and even without trying to be a dick, I just expected it to be a weird, whimsical, Gene just doing different styles and random things that he likes because it is his time to do a solo album and that's the best place for that. And I feel like that's what we got. And then Live to Win just definitely caught me off guard.
Julian, were you surprised with this ranking? Happy with it?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's pretty fair considering the participants. So surprised. But I think that's a great point about, Gene's album really gave you more of an emotional response because there was stuff that pissed you off. There was stuff that shocked you. There was also a few things that amazed me. Whereas Paul's, it's very much, it's a different kind of feel.
He's too competent.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really rise to it because he's always operated at a very high level. So there's very little about the album that shocks you. No frilly pun intended there. So I think the ranking's good, and I'm not surprised most of the ballads end up lower down the ranking. So I certainly don't think it's the last good work Paul does, though, and that's very fortunate for me personally.
Well, I didn't say last good work. I said last great work.
Well, let's be fair. The last great thing Paul Stanley was a part of was Don't Touch My Ascot.
That's true. Well, last great entire album.
Psycho Circus.
So, Victor, you're the resident Kiss expert. Did you think this ranking was satisfactory?
So I gotta say, looking at my numbers versus the numbers as they came out, this is probably the closest I've ever been to getting stuff right. Even though I don't have a lot of numbers exactly on, I have them like 1 or 2 away from where they ended up being. So I think this is maybe the most pleased I've ever been, and like understanding of where people disagreed with me. And Greg, I think I'm actually going to one up your hot take in this specific instance, because of all the Kiss albums I've listened to, I think this is not only the last great Kiss album, but maybe the best Kiss album I've ever heard.
Oh,
My head! My precious head!
Victor.
Well, what a note to end on.
Wow.
Victor, where can people find you on the internet and tweet at you about your opinion?
You can tweet about my good opinions at the Victastic K, and you can listen to my just so heavily Kiss influenced music. I'm James Gameboy on Spotify, Patreon, and Bandcamp.
Gavin, where can people tweet at you on the internet?
People can tweet at me at, oh, Jesus, what is my individual Twitter handle? I don't really use Twitter myself.
Where can people just harass you on the internet?
How can we find you?
It's Mr. Gavin on Instagram. You can also listen to music that I have done and tell me how bad my music is compared to Live to Win by looking up Bent Knee. That's the band that I'm in. We just put out a new album like a couple weeks ago. Out on Inside Out Records. No, it was earlier this month.
No, for this episode.
Got a delay.
Oh yeah, a couple of months ago. Yeah. And you can find Bentley on Twitter at Bentley Music, Instagram at Bentley Music, and I don't know, probably LinkedIn or something like that.
Mike, what do you feel like promoting this week?
Got to give a shout out to one of my all-time favorite bands, Status Quo. They have a relatively new album out called Backbone, and it is their first one since the passing of awesome longtime founding member Rick Parfitt. I actually don't quite like it as much as most of their 21st century output, yet other fans in general seem to think more favorably of it, so everyone should listen to it and decide for themselves because they're an excellent, underrated band.
All right. And Julian, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, just to respond to Mike's, buy the New Angel album. You can find me on...
that's a great record.
You can find me on the KissFAQ.com and come over and argue.
Everyone gets the sad applause.
The RNG is being mean to everyone but Gavin.
Woohoo!
And Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
You can find us at lipstickgeneration.com and on most social media platforms as Lipstick Generation.
right, that is our episode. Bye, Internet.
Bye.